From October until December 2025, part of the Helperzoom in Groningen was turned into a much safer street for cyclists. Where before this busy cycle route was dangerous to cyclists because of speeding cars and heavy traffic, it is now redesigned into a cycle street where cars are the guests and cyclists take priority. For 8 weeks, I regularly visited the road constructions at the Helperzoom to document how this unsafe street became a much greener cycle street. The Helperzoom is part of the F34 continuous cycle route from Haren to Groningen, a very popular route for commuters. Most of the route along the Helperzoom is a separate cycle lane, but the part between the Helperzoom tunnel and the cycle tunnel under Europa Park railway station is a busy wide street with on-road painted cycle lanes. 10,000 cyclists per day use this route, making this stretch hazardous, particularly around the T-junction to the cycle tunnel. Now this part of the Helperzoom is turned into a cycle street or fietsstraat in Dutch. The road is narrowed and specific traffic calming measures are put in place. The speed limit will go down to 30 km per hour, that is 20 miles per hour. I made a before video with more info about the old situation. You can find a link in the description below or at the end of this video. The reconstruction of the Helperzoom started on the 13th of October 2025. I want to give a big thanks to the different road construction crews of Koninklijke Sjouke Dijkstra and the municipality of Groningen who allowed me to film their work and answer my questions. In the old situation, the road was 9 meters, almost 30 feet wide. By narrowing it to 6 meters or 19 feet, there suddenly was a lot of extra space for greenery, especially trees. On the first day, the asphalt was cut and removed, immediately giving a good impression how much narrower the road would become. Trenches were dug for the new trees and filled with soil. After a week of preparation, it was time for the new trees to be planted. They arrived one by one on a flatbed lorry with crane. The trees that were chosen for this project had spent the last 7 years in a tree hotel after they were rescued from the rebuilding of the Southern Ring Road. About 60 mature trees, mostly lime trees, waited in the hotel for their new permanent spot. Lime trees are hardy trees that can stand being moved, and 38 of them were replanted along the Helperzoom. 8 trees were planted in the spot of the old skate park, the rest along the road. It took about a week and a half to plant all the trees. This was faster than expected, helped by the nice autumn weather. After the planting was finished, not much happened for the next few weeks. I learned later that the road construction company hadn't expected the tree planting to go this fast, and their large milling equipment wasn't available until the last week of November. It was unusual to see the Helperzoom quiet. The first signs of things picking up again was the removal of some bushes and shrubs in front of the houses along the Helperzoom. This greenery is up for a rejuvenation project, but that won't happen until the spring of 2026. Nevertheless, preparations for this project already took place while the road was closed to traffic. Then, on the 24th of November, the reconstruction started in earnest with the arrival of the milling crew and their large machinery. Along the whole 750 meters of the project, about half a mile, a layer of asphalt was shaved off the road by the milling machine. During the milling, the removed asphalt was dropped into a heavy lorry that kept pace with the machine. At the T-junction to the cycle tunnel, the center island was taken away. This junction underwent the biggest change, as it literally moved about 5 meters, that is 16 feet. Here you can see in green how far it moved from its original position with the new road in red. Once all the milling was done and the excess asphalt removed from future green areas, it was time to reconstruct the road. The reconstruction project was split up into 2 parts. A southern part that ran from the junction with the Helperzoom tunnel to the T-junction with the cycle tunnel, shown here in green on the map. This part will be a cycle street. And a northern part in red, from the T-junction to the zebra crossing. This part is not a cycle street, but it is a 30 km/h zone. I think they made the choice not to make this stretch a cycle street because most cyclists turn towards the cycle tunnel at the T-junction. With the asphalt milling and removal done, the southern part now needed new curbs on both sides of the road. As this progressed, it gave an immediate idea what the cycle street would look like. For the cycle street, so-called splay curbs were used, which have an angle of 45 degrees. This makes it safer for cyclists, as you don't fall over as quickly when you hit the curb by accident. Next to curbs, new drains were added. These new drains also have a 45-degree angle to fit the curbs. 3 speed bumps were added along the cycle street. These bumps are at such an angle that cars have to slow down when going over it, but cyclists hardly notice them. The construction of the new curbs started in the southern part, and while the curbs and drains were put into place, excavators were still busy filling in the new green areas with soil in the northern part of the project. This northern part didn't get the splay curbs, but normal ones that drop when there is a driveway to a house. Temporary paving was put into place on the driveways, as the footpath and greenery along this part of the Helperzoom will be done in the spring of 2026. Once the cycle street had new curbs, the new T-junction needed to take shape. Curbs follow the new outline of the junction, and the new areas for greenery were filled in with soil. On the northern end of the project, the center island for the zebra crossing was enlarged, and this whole stretch also got new drains. Lastly, new lampposts were placed along the east side of the Helperzoom. The lamppost along the west side will be replaced later on. All this happened in just 3 weeks, a surprisingly short time. On the 16th of December, 4 days before the street was about to reopen, it was time for the final phase of the reconstruction, new asphalt. The whole stretch of the project got the standard bottom layer of black asphalt. This was covered in a top layer of 3.5 centimeters, that is 1.5 inch slightly finer asphalt. Dark grey in the northern 30 km/h zone and red on the cycle street. The asphalt crew came in with an asphalt machine and several different sizes of compactors and heavy rollers. Asphalt can't be laid when the temperature drops too low, but luckily at the Helperzoom it was just still warm enough to work. Although the foreman of the crew did tell me that at lower temperatures asphalt is more difficult for them to handle. The asphalt machine would put down a layer of asphalt, after which heavy rollers would compact it. This was repeated until the required thickness was reached. The T-junction and zebra crossing were raised to slow down motorized traffic, and the cycle street got 3 speed bumps. It took just 2 days to tarmac the whole stretch of the project. Lastly, markings were added, including the zebra crossing. The cycle street will still get a grid down the middle of the road, optically dividing it into 2 parts to slow down traffic. This grid is stamped into the red asphalt, but as it was too cold for that in December, this will have to wait until the spring of 2026. And with that, Groningen had a new cycle street. A few things still need to be finalized, but the result is already beautiful and a very smooth ride. Slowly but surely the F34 continuous cycle route gets completed. If you want to know what the Helperzoom looked like before the reconstruction, click the link on the screen right now or find it in the description below. And don't forget to keep cycling.